Told that you have a huge guitar collection. Is there any truth to that?
Well, it was huge. It's been slimmed down a little bit, but I have a very good guitar collection.
In numbers, would you say that you have more than 100?
No, but very good guitars.
Would you say you have more than 50?
I have about 28 guitars.
Okay, about 30 guitars.
Yes, and but some very, very choice old guitars.
And what would be an example of one or two of those that you are most affectionate with?
64 Gretsch double anniversary with cat's eye sound holes done in black. There were only 50 ever produced.
Now say that a little slow. What?
Gretsch.
A Gretsch.
Double anniversary with cat's eye sound holes. A special order for Manny's Music in 1964 in New York.
Now for the
50 in black, 50 in red.
For the ignorant, what does double anniversary mean?
That was one of the Gretsch models.
What did they call it? Why did they call it a double anniversary?
That's a great question.
Okay, so that was just a name that they attached to it. I see. Now, is there a famous rock star associated with that?
With Gretsch guitars?
Sure.
Chet Atkins played a Gretsch.
Now, who's Chet Atkins?
Chet Atkins was probably the greatest guitar player we've had in this country. He was a 50s legend in country, and he was sort of used a alternating bass line, thumb pick style, following on the footsteps of Merle Travis. And Chet Atkins was the most lyrical of all guitar players of the last 100 years.
Now, was there a particular song he's associated with?
You're welcome. Thank you.
Not really.
Is there any song that I can say that
Chet
he did?
He did a beautiful version of Summertime.
Summertime.
But Chet played a Gretsch country gentleman. He was known to play Gretsch. The Beatles played Gretsch at times. A lot of people played Gretsch.
When you say the Beatles, which of the Beatles?
George Harrison played
Okay,
Gretsch.
so George Harrison. George Harrison. Now, is there a song?
So did John, actually.
Is there a song that George Harrison played the Gretsch on that we might have heard of?
A lot of the early
Is there a
Beatles
specific
songs. I'm trying
song?
to think what he might have played a Gretsch on. Let's say.
Well, how about My Guitar Weeps? Did he play with that?
No, I don't think that would be his Gretsch. We're talking about 62 to 66, more of the Meet the Beatles type sound. They're playing their Gretches.
I see.
But I have a large collection of.
Now, is there another guitar that you have associated with a famous rocker?
A wonderful, very rare guitar by probably the greatest guitar maker in the world today, a man named Andy Powers. I have two of his hand-built guitars, and my Andy Powers has been played by both Vince Gill and John Jorgensen, two of the greatest guitar players on the planet have played my guitar. And I have an archtop made by Andy Powers.
Now, when you say they play your guitar, the actual guitar that you have,
my guitar,
your guitar, not one like it, but your guitar
the
was
man
played.
That made my guitar, Andy Powers, let both John Jorgensen and Vince Gill play the guitar with my approval.
Okay, now what year was that?
About 5 years ago.
And what was the circumstances in which they played that?
Vince Gill played at the Escondido Performing Arts Center, and Andy was talking to him guitars. He's not only the best guitar player in the world, he's one of the greatest players I've ever met, and friends with these people. John Jorgensen is the greatest proponent of what Django Reinhardt hot jazz style. In France, he's like a god. Jorgensen is just an...
So now these are the kind of people that someone like Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and people like that would tip their hat to. They would say that those guys are the best.
These are the guitar players. John Jorgensen played in the Desert Rose Band. He was in Elton John's band. He was in a band called the Helicasters. He was in
the Helicasters.
Both of these guys, Vince Gill, they're just guitar players.
Now, not quite sure if I've asked you or if you've said it, so who do you think the greatest guitar player is?
My favorite guitar player?
No. Who do you think the greatest guitar player is?
Right now, living?
No, not necessarily. Either, well, I'll limit to either alive or dead.
My favorite guitar player today.
No. Who do you think is the greatest one? Not necessarily who your favorite is. I mean, let's say your next door neighbor might be a guitar player because your next door neighbor might be your favorite. Who do you think the greatest guitar player is?
Doc Watson.
Doc Watson. And when is he alive?
Yes, he is.
And what groups was he
He's a
associated with?
blind player. He played with his son Merle, who died in a tractor accident. Jack Lawrence. Doc Watson is a blind man from North Carolina, from the Asheville area, who is, to me, made the sweetest sounds to ever come out of
And
him.
is there a specific song you associate with him?
Little Sadie.
Little Sadie. About when did that come out? About?
Doc has done so many incredible songs.
Well, I'd like to be specific about these
Oh,
things.
gosh.
And abstraction is not really as
I'm
interesting
trying
as.
to just try
Okay,
to
so
come up
Little
with a-
Sadie, is that from the 50s, the 40s,
Yeah, it's from
30s?
the early 60s.
Early 60s.
Yes. Doc Watson, I think, is probably the greatest guitar player ever.
Now, is that a piece of country
He's a-
music or
he's
what?
a flat picker. Flat pick bluegrass.
Would that be called? So that's not country.
Flat
That's
picking bluegrass.
okay. Is that
a
the kind of thing that would have made it in the top 40, or was it a
He's more of
different?
an Appalachian stylist.
I see. Okay.